Welcome back to Echo Ridge and another episode here in our max difficulty achievement run. We have a lot on the agenda, and if I don't start packing more into these episodes, I'm going to be playing this map for years. Let's get to work. Now, I know the last few episodes have been focused here on Rikazan. This one is not going to be. I have them picking up the entire place, and sometime in the background, I'm going to start tapping into these natural gas geysers, and I'll give you an update whenever we're more successful on that front. But that's pretty much the next step, is getting some sort of power plant here. Instead, today's episode is going to focus a lot more on our home planetoid of Tuxedo and the planetoid connected via teleporters in Varlin. First, I'm prepping this planetoid for complete automation. What do I mean by that? Well, right now, Mr. DK Oz, Doritos P, and Naz are all living on this planetoid. But there's not much more I want to accomplish or do on this planetoid. I mean, yes, I'm still going to rip out these last couple of biomes here, but all that'd be left would be tapping into this liquid sulfur geyser, and quite frankly, I just don't have a need for it right now. So it got me thinking, well, why are the dupes just sitting on this planetoid? Especially when I have a rather large project coming up on the home planetoid, it'd be nice to be able to bring them home. So what does it take to fully automate this planetoid? Well, first we're going to need power. That wasn't too bad. We have an auto sweeper here and the standard configuration of coal generators. I've also had this storage bin loaded up with 20 tons of coal, and 20 tons of coal running these 3 coal generators would last a very long time when there's no dupes on this planetoid that cause a majority of the power usage. For instance, using the bathrooms, which turns on the water sieve, or grilling our food so the dupes here have something to eat. Instead, what I'm actually trying to automate, instead of just leaving the planet outright, is the delivery of resources. Previously, we had this weird little hodgepodge, quote, temporary system, where we would just load things into the storage bin, and then select what we wanted out of the conveyor loader, and the auto sweeper would take everything from the storage bin and throw it in the conveyor loader. That requires a bit too much dupe labor though, and considering we're not going to have any dupes here, we might as well try to skip that entire step, which we have. For the past probably 200 to 300 cycles, the duplicates have been picking things up. For instance, they still have a lot more to do over here. Well, this is the spot where they drop all those materials off. And what I've done here is put in a simple conveyor loader and an auto sweeper. So anytime we need anything, I can literally just go to the conveyor loader, whether there's duplicates on this planetoid or not, and select them. For instance, why don't we try taking all of the seeds? Auto sweeper grabs all the seeds and puts them into the conveyor loader. All those materials are going to ride the rail all the way over to the wonderful supply teleporter input, where they'll eventually end up over here on Tuxedo, where I've made another small upgrade. Previously, everything was coming out of the supply teleporter output and just being dropped right here. Well, now everything's just being dropped off right to our infinite storage. So we no longer need this conveyor chute or rail system here. I don't know why it took me so long to do this, other than the fact that sometimes you're so close to the problem, you can't see the solution. Now eventually we'd still have to come back to this planetoid, if for nothing else but to load this storage bin up. But I'll be honest, I don't know exactly how long 20 tons of coal is going to last without duplicates on this planetoid, but I'm pretty sure I will no longer be playing this playthrough when that time comes. Yeah, there'll be a small issue with carbon dioxide as it continues to rise and rise, but do we really care if there's no duplicates here? I think not. So the long and short of it, as far as Environment goes, know that I'm going to continue removing everything from the planetoid and just start sending everything over to our home planetoid. For instance, maybe now I want some metal ore. Yes. Absolutely wonderful. So what kind of projects did I have in mind for Tuxedo? Well, this has to do with what we talked about during the last episode, and the fact that I'm all hopped up on fullerene, and yet I have no petroleum to do anything with it. So, I figured out how we're going to go get that petroleum. And it starts with the pips. I know, weird, right? To remind you of a few of our options, there were sort of 2. One would be grabbing some crude oil from this oily asteroid field. Unfortunately, it's a little bit too far away for our current rocketry program. The other option was coming back over to Isle Lonan here and setting up yet another planetoid where we extract a bunch of the oil from here and ship it on over. The problem with this is we need water, and the only water naturally occurring on this planetoid is coming from a cool steam vent. So this definitely would be a possibility, although it would be somewhat painful. Not to mention the fact it would be another colony that I'd have to keep my eyes on. And already between Tuxedo, Envirolin, and Rikazon, well, my cupboard is gonna runneth over. Alright, Echo, stop teasing. How are we gonna actually get the petroleum? Well, like I said, it started with the Pips when they planted these arbor trees. And those trees have been running so long that we have 336,000 units worth of lumber. Are you ready to take a ride? We're gonna take all that lumber and we're gonna feed it to an ethanol distiller, which is gonna make us some ethanol. We're gonna take all the ethanol and we're gonna throw it into some petroleum generators. The petroleum generators are gonna create a couple of things. Power, for one. Not that we need it thanks to our nuclear brick, but it's also gonna create carbon dioxide. And we're gonna take that carbon dioxide and feed it to slicksters. Eventually, hopefully, to molten slicksters. But even if the design comes out to where it's not hot enough to maintain molten slicksters, it surely will be hot enough by that time to feed it to regular slicksters, which we can then take the crude oil and throw it into an oil refinery where we'll be giving, finally, at the other end, petroleum. One issue that does pose a problem that I was sort of insinuating towards is the fact that slicksters like it warm, and there's not a whole lot that's warm on this planetoid. So we're going to do a little colony makeover. We started by exterminating the bees that were down here. I mean, gently relocating them to another habitat. Yes, that sounds more convincing. I also capped off this carbon dioxide geyser because, well, minus 55 degrees wasn't getting us any closer to our slickster ranch, and have been cleaning it up down here to give us a nice little area to start off in. Now the only issue is, where am I going to get slicksters from? And for that, we have a couple of options. One, I could wait for the printing pod to offer them to us. After all, we did discover them a very long time ago over here in Idololan. The other option is to wait for one of these slicksters to lay an egg. And then once they do, we gently relocate it back to our home planetoid and our soon-to-be slickster ranch. And it's not like we need a lot of slicksters. We get 100 kilos worth of supercoolant for only 49.5 kilos worth of petroleum. So I'm going to start working on that here in a minute. But there's also one other project that we need to get started on as well. And that is GMO AOK. While we don't have access to every single plant yet, we have access to quite a few. So I figured it's high in time to start mutating some seeds. And this is where we're going to do it. Now, I know a lot of you are probably thinking, why are we putting our sort of greenhouse way over here when we have all sorts of radiation inside of our nuclear sauna? And the reason just has to do with, I think this way is going to be a lot easier. Remember, our space biome has a lot of naturally occurring radiation, 375 rads to be exact. So as long as I can build an atmosphere in here, well, the plants are going to be getting radiation. And while, yeah, it'll probably take a long time, especially when you consider that most plants have the ambient radiation limit of 9,800 rads per cycle. And if you highlight over the tooltip, it says, growing them near its maximum radiation increases the chance of mutant seeds being produced. So yes, growing them in 9,799 rads per cycle environment would be a lot better. It would take a massive rework of this sauna to be able to build an environment close enough to it to start planting some goodies. Unless I could trim off the top of the sauna here and create the greenhouse on top of the sauna, but then we'd also have to deal with all the meteors coming down and hitting it. But then again, we could just repair that damage whenever that happened. Which, by the way, over the time, a lot of these tiles have taken quite a bit of a beating. I don't know, let me try it out with something basic like mealwood and see how long it takes to get a mutant seed using just the radiation from space. Which brings me to the specific building of our greenhouse. I put down a bunch of tiles here because, again, we want to maximize the amount of radiation coming from space into the greenhouse. So I want to minimize how much it's blocking. So I did a couple of tests. Here we have plastic, a glass window tile, and then standard tiles made out of sandstone, igneous rock, granite, sedimentary rock, and obsidian. And then we finish it up with a couple of metal tiles, one made out of copper and one made out of gold. Just for completeness sake, I'm also going to build one out of steel. And when we take a look at the radiation overlay, we can see exactly how much radiation each tile is blocking, going all the way up from 68% from the plastic tile down to 28% from the gold tile. So we're going to build the roof out of gold tiles. All right, look. I have no idea what happened, Somehow, Patrick Gordon has taken enough damage where they've been incapacitated. I get it, the metal tile's 105 degrees, but they're inside of an Atmos suit. And I was like, okay, well, that's not too big of a deal. We have triage cots here, except Angry Forest has also been injured, well, kind of bad. And I have no idea what's causing this. Sulfur's taken a lot of damage, so is Carol, Lindsay, Aiden. Like, most of the dupes on this planetoid have some sort of damage, and I have no idea what's causing it. I guess priority one's gonna be assigning this bed to Patrick so somebody will go grab them. Like, somebody. Anybody. Seriously, anybody. Oh, never mind. I see exactly what happened. They took a rat bolt to the face. Oops. Like, I knew it caused damage, but I didn't realize it was going to cause damage that quickly. But I guess when you're machine gunning rat bolts all over the place, bad things sort of happen. Let me go ahead and turn off the machine gun just for a minute. With that off, we can resume work. Starting with putting some oxygen inside of this room. Unfortunately, this oxygen is 100 and something degrees. I suppose it's because the oxygen line is running in uninsulated pipes right through 116 degree obsidian. Way to go, Echo. You are a giant meep. Let's go ahead and insulate these, shall we? In my defense, it really didn't matter until right now, but now I gotta cool this thing down and add a few more insulated tiles because these tiles too are a bit warm. Why are you the way you are, Echo? Sorry about that, Patrick. No hard feelings though, right? I just realized I'm always gonna have a problem with temperature management here because remember, we have an emergency overflow system that will occasionally drop some very hot water onto these tiles, which is going to create steam, which is going to heat these metal tiles up, which it already has. I wish I was more confident whether or not this system was going to work here. I would just put a temperature management system in place with a thermal aqua tuner and a steam turbine. Maybe I can get the temperature down low enough, just temporarily, until I can get some mealwoods growing in here. Or Echo, you could just do it right the first time. All right, you win. In thinking about the design of our new greenhouse up here, I realized I already have a nice little area here that is temperature controlled, although it definitely could be doing better, because even though this coolant is sitting at 20 degrees, it's still about 40 degrees in here. But this would be absolutely perfect because we have about 3,000 rads right here. Can I get rid of one steam turbine? Is this something I shouldn't be doing? I mean, right now we have 10 steam turbines, keeping one research reactor and 2 thermal aqua tuners cool, not to mention all of this down here. Oh, I just realized we have gold now. I can start using this oxalite refinery. Yay us! I'm going to start by upgrading some of these pipes. We had some insulated liquid pipes in here, but using the cobalt radiant pipes should help drive down the temperature a little bit. And I've also had an epiphany. What we're going to do is just make a second floor to that steam turbine room. And instead of taking away a steam turbine, we'll just go on the second floor to be able to grow all the crops. And just to make sure we have enough room, I'm going to put a couple more layers here and then throw down a bunch of bunker tiles so we never have to worry about meteors cracking into this. Now, I know you're a little bit concerned about the 2,500 rats per cycle that's going to be up here, but the duplicates aren't going to have to come up here very often, right? It's just to add fertilizer to the plant. They'll be in and out in a jiffy. They don't need lead suits or anything like that. I'm hoping. Okay, Eilert, this one's on me. I know. I just... Look, I don't have a good excuse for you. Just, if somebody could come by and build Eilert a ladder, they're starting to look a little squeamish. See? No problem at all. Sorry again, buddy. Fun fact, a duplicate can't radiation vomit while they're sleeping. I got the notification that said they were vomiting, but they were just sleeping through it. They can, unfortunately, vomit while they're getting a massage. They just hop right off the table, do their thing, and then get right back on the table. At 100 kilos apiece, I am not looking forward to paying the cost for these bunker tiles, hence the reason I haven't put any sort of bunker door system in yet. And you might be wondering, why do we still only have, well, now 5 tons of steel? And the limitation is the iron. And so far, I haven't found any sort of asteroid that I can go grab iron from. There's a radioactive asteroid field that has rust, which we can then melt and get iron from, but it is entirely too far away for our current rocketry program. We'll just upgrade the rocketry program. Like, I hear you. Except to what? We have no petroleum, hence the reason we're doing all the things we're doing for petroleum rockets, and we have no supercoolant that would be able to power a hydrogen rocket. All of this nonsense because the two connected planetoids that we started on have nothing to help us. Speaking of petroleum, we're starting to heat up the area a little bit. If you remember, it was rather chilly. So we just put in a space heater and we'll let this run for 10, 20 cycles and get this place nice and hot. That way, if we do happen to find a slickster egg, we'll have some place to put the little guy. Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to start working on lead suits. Apparently, max difficulty Carol, just by installing those pipes, took too much radiation and has a bit of the rumble tummies. But keep in mind, lead suits aren't perfect either. They only add a 66% radiation resistance, but if we put the duplicants in lead suits and we keep feeding them the basic rad pills, it's gonna have to do. It'd be really nice if we had some surf and turf or something, because the seafood would give it even more of a radiation resistance. I don't quite remember why I put this smart battery here, and I kinda need the space. I think it was probably in case I ever wanted to power control these steam turbines, but let's be honest, that's not something I'm gonna be able to do. I am really tired of cleaning up radiation vomit. I mean, why can't the dupes go use the bathroom? Now I'm gonna try to do this a little bit of piecemeal and start by putting in some drywall up here. And we have a little bit of room until we get to the bad radiation areas. So I think what I can do is sort of bore it out from the inside. And then I'll put some atmosuit docks and some lead suit docks right here at the beginning, probably just 2 of each. That way they can take the atmosuit off and put on the lead suit before they go into here. Now, right now, it sort of has this fading effect, but as soon as we rip out all these walls, this whole area is going to light up with radiation pretty well. Not to mention, we can even make the floor out of metal tiles or something. It's rather obvious that we've been metal starved for so long. As soon as you look up in the materials overlay and click on metal, we have been piecemealing this for a very long time. And unfortunately, I'm having a problem finding out where I built things out of lead. I know we have to have some of it around here, and the only thing that's going into our power control stations is copper, so they didn't get turned into microchips, but I only have 240 kilos worth of lead. And while I can build the docks out of anything I want, and the checkpoint out of anything I want, the lead suit itself requires 200 kilos of, well, lead. Some of you are looking at the overlay going, I see exactly where the lead is. For those of you who do not know, I am colorblind, so this is going to take me a little bit, and we shall call this the Great Lead Hunt. I mean, I don't even know what shade I'm looking for. What if I narrow it down to when we got the lead? Then I might be able to figure out what I built out of it based on the timeline. What's funny is it's probably just like one power line. Ooh, I found some. This conductive wire right here is made out of lead. That doesn't help me a lot because it looks exactly like the copper lines. We've managed to scrounge up another 200 kilos, so we'll now make 2 suits, and this should work out okay. I'll put an atmosuit checkpoint here, followed up with a couple of docks, say here. I already have an oxygen line that'll work out pretty well. I'm also going to throw in another power transformer, and that way that floor has its own power. Don't know if we'll need it yet or not, but it'll be convenient. For now, it'll just power the docks. I suppose some of the plants are going to need light, so that'll be a good use as well. And of course, the lead suit docks are 4 tiles high. Well, looks like we're getting a little bit more radiation sickness. Over on Rikazan, we are making a little bit of progress with our natural gas geysers, and these are pretty simple. We're just going to take I was going to say steel gas pump, because we had about a ton of it, and now we have 0, which means the duplicants must be cut off somehow. Here it is. The steel's all covered up. You know the game's starting to get a little buggy when you have plug slugs confined inside of Abyssalite. This was not here before, so I have no idea how the plug slug managed to get inside the Abyssalite. Now that we have access to our steel again, we put the steel gas pump in there, because remember, the natural gas comes out of the geyser at 150C. We add in a little bit of automation, not that we'll necessarily need it, but it's always nice to be able to turn the gas pump on and off, and the atmo sensor will give us that ability. Then we just add a gas line coming out of it, the same with a power line, and then once we finish analyzing the geyser, we can close it all up, and when it's time to start tapping into the natural gas, we'll be able to. I've always had a special place in my heart for liquid locks being created by 36.9 grams worth of salt water. It really is handy being able to replace tiles now with drywall, so you don't have to deconstruct them all and then put them in. But once the dupes finish up with this, we'll finally be able to put the lead suits in. With that laborious task complete, we can finally put in the wonderful lead suit docks. And now, at long last, it's time to put the 2 checkpoints in. We'll start off with the lead one, and then also put the Atmo suit one in as well. Now, the way this is going to work is just like when a duplicant crosses a checkpoint, they take their suit off. They're going to do the same thing up here. Take their suit that they're wearing off, and then won't be able to pass this point without putting a lead suit on. I love the little danger triangle sitting on the lead suit checkpoint with the dupe sitting inside of it. Very cute touch. And at long last, after a small fix of the oxygen system, we can finish the rest of our greenhouse. Now, it's not going to be perfect for a couple of reasons. Some of them we've gone over already, such as the temperature we're going to have to fix. Also of which is these suits are very last in a long run of things that require oxygen, to include our primary suits. The only other thing we had to make sure we did is on the Atmo suit checkpoint itself, we wanted to make it as vacancy only. In other words, there has to be available space for them to be able to drop off a suit in order for them to be able to pass this point. And this makes sense because we don't want duplicants coming in here, there not being room, and then they just drop their suit. But now our adorable little dupes can work somewhat protected from the radiation. Yeah, we're gonna see how that goes. And the hunt for slicksters can begin. While we still need a little bit more temp, we're just about ready to fire up this ethanol distiller and petroleum generator, and it's gonna make it pretty warm pretty quickly. We're gonna connect the whole thing to our main power spine, which is gonna give us even more power. And I think we could probably use a transformer over here. So I think we'll add one right there. Then we hook everything up with the conductive wire. And then the last thing to do for it is to figure out what we're gonna do with all this polluted water. Up until now, all the polluted water we were creating, or happened to find, was going through this water sieve with the excess being turned into oxygen. I guess this system would kind of work though, because any extra polluted water that it's getting will be turned into oxygen or will be used up here in the creation of more fertilizer. Granted, this is going to be some pretty hot polluted water, so we're going to use insulated tiles for sure and make our way all the way down to the bottom of the base. A couple other systems I want to add though is a buffer tank for the ethanol distiller and a smart battery on the petroleum generator. I'm not necessarily sure that we're going to be using the smart battery to control the petroleum generator because we don't really need the power, but I'd rather not be wasteful, especially considering we only have so many wild trees. We have 9 here and then 4 in this ranch. And while that'll give us plenty of lumber, this ethanol distiller can chew through it. Another quick point about this is the ratio is not perfect. Normally you use 3 or 4 ethanol distillers per petroleum generator, but remember we're only using the petroleum generator to create hot carbon dioxide for the slicksters to eventually be able to eat. So I'm not exactly sure how that's going to turn out quite yet, but I'll keep you updated in future episodes. Once, of course, we get our own slicksters. As a matter of fact, they've laid their eggs. So next episode, I think we're going to go egg hunting. So there you have it, our slickster feeding system. I guess that's a thing now? I mean, who knows what else this playthrough is going to make us build. I hope you had a great time in this episode. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.